welcome back to the podcast. This is Living the Small Business Life. Today on the podcast, we're going to have a chat about branding and reputation. So Ben, you have the questions again. Where are we going to start with this one?
Yeah, well, I think branding and reputation are massively linked, but I'm going to try and separate it a little bit. So I'm just going to start off with about, what does branding mean to you as a business owner? So
it's not my favourite subject, I'll be honest.
No, no.
I think the way I've always looked at branding and reputation, I don't think, in certain circumstances, reputation has helped get a deal, whether it's been through a referral or whether you've had to use particular existing customers as a referral base. But I don't think that my branding has ever won me a deal. Does that make sense?
I do understand that, yeah.
I don't know whether the logo we have currently, whether it was just the words written, Bluebell. I don't know whether that's going to make any difference to the person making the decision, because ultimately, for me, people buy from people. They're not buying the proposal. They're not buying my logo. They're not buying my mats. They're not buying my, pens. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because I think there's definitely part of branding that is around consistency. Like, it's the idea that people know when they found you that it's you. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what you're talking about a bit more. You want people to know, that lot that are like, named after a flower and do phones. Who are they? And then, there's some kind of Google search where you've, Google daffodil, and then it's like, Bluebell or whatever. I mean, obviously I'm playing this for jokes, but yeah, sure. I think, branding, one of the key things about it is just people knowing they found you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get that. You done a lot of SEO work and...
Yeah, but we already had the brand as such. I mean, with the first business that I ran was HMS Evolve, and even coming up with the name, we wanted something catchy, and actually I don't think it was very catchy in the end at all. But it was a play on initials from both surnames, which is how we got the HMS Evolve, and then Evolve came from we want to evolve your business. But all we kept asking all the time is, it sounds like a naval ship,
Like a boat.
But again, that was a conversation starter, I suppose. But then we spent loads of time getting a logo designed, coming up with a slogan, and I think it was evolving through optimisation or something like that. And it didn't win us any business, I would say. But we had the logo was nice, and we went to, is it like Fiverr? Where you can upload like a brief and then you get people bidding to do the work. And we actually had some quite good fun going back and forth, and can you change this on the logo and that on the logo? But we spent weeks and weeks and weeks on that. And actually we could have been getting on with other things when we were starting out the business. I actually quite like the Bluebell logo, particularly for you where you're Bluebell Cloud Solutions. I know you've got an IT Solutions top on today.
The bell and the cloud.
The bell and the cloud. It sort of makes sense, doesn't it? And we've just taken that from you and changed Cloud Solutions to IT Solutions on the bottom. So I didn't even have to think about it the second time round. But then
I think that works between us.
Yeah.
With the brand recognition from a customer who's, let's say, a telco customer, you're then contacting them, they see the logo, they just automatically assume that we're the same company when we're not.
Yeah.
But, if you look at our first logo that we ever did, it was absolutely horrendous. It was so pixelated. When we printed it on a proposal documents, going back a few years, when you printed it, it looked like something out of like a Pac-Man game from the 1980s. It literally was horrendous. But I don't think at that time, I think the customers were buying us as individuals who were presenting to them, and they were buying our story. They weren't necessarily buying the brand as in the logo that was Bluebell. Does that make sense? And I suppose the branding and reputation comes from your story. There's an element of your story in there. There's an element of your logo. It's a combination of a lot of things. But I've always been a firm believer that, doesn't matter how well a proposal document is presented or how your logo looks or how your website looks. I think very rarely do a potential customer go and actually look at your website nowadays. I don't think they do. And certainly the traffic that we get to the website seems to be external. It's not from people that we've actually sent proposals to. They're not checking you out as much as they did years ago. So, Yeah, it's a real difficult one because you can spend tens of thousands of pounds on branding, you know. And let's be honest, one of the biggest brands in the world is Quarter Eaton Apple. You know, what resemblance does that bear to their products whatsoever? It's nothing.
Well, it was Apple Mac originally, wasn't it? You know,
but it still doesn't bear any resemblance to their product.
But then it is recognition. You know when you see it exactly, you know, and also you notice it in absence now. So I was watching something where they clearly were using a Mac laptop and they'd stuck a circular sticker over it. Everyone still knows it's a laptop from Apple. Yeah. It's just that they either didn't want to pay for the branding or they didn't want the branding in it. So, you know, if you're so recognizable that even your logo is obvious when it's not there, like that's, again, people know they found you.
Yeah, agreed. Do you remember Orange, the mobile network?
Yeah.
You know, wow, it was just a colour. Again, what resemblance to them as a company did someone sit in a room and say, right, we're going to have a mobile network. You know, one of the networks we're competing against is called Vodafone. The other one's called Cellnet for obvious reasons. Where did someone just say, oh, Orange, and we'll just have a square that's orange with orange written in it? It just doesn't make sense. I think a lot of it is down to the amount that you advertise for that recognition. If you could spend hundreds of thousands of pounds a month on, you know, publicising your logo and so on and so forth, yes, I think it would grow and grow and grow. But I think you get a natural progression anyway for just transacting business, especially local businesses.
Yeah, you get known in the local area.
Vehicles, the vans driving around, everybody sees it. You know, our vans get noticed an awful lot.
Yeah.
But that's still branding. It's got your logo on it. It's got your name on it. That's recognition again. So that's still in the net of branding.
Yeah, but I think we've tried to, as opposed to, because if you drive down the motorway now, you'll see hundreds of vans with branding on them. And I think we've tried to be quite quirky with our vans. If you look at the branding on the vans, we've tried to do them and we've tried to buy particular vehicles and particular colours that they stand out. So that people just don't see a blur of writing on the side, because unless something stands out, you're not naturally going to go, your eyes are not going to go to it. Whereas your vans, our vans, they stand out. You know, people notice them. It's not, you know, I've got a couple of friends that have got building companies and they've literally got a square sign on the side of their vans, and you'll say to someone, oh, do you know such and such, they've got the building company, and be like, no. Yet if we turn up to the local petrol station and they go, oh, Mr. Bluebell, it's like, oh, how do you know? And that's because they recognise all the vehicles that are driving around, I think.
Getting it in front of eyes, basically.
Yeah, agreed.
And what's your take on importance of branding? Because you work in the creative space, so you know you've probably worked on multiple campaigns and social media and things like that. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's important, but I think you can spend too much time. You can, like everything, spend too much time on it, especially if you're a small business. And I think it does come down to consistency. I think it's in terms of you want things to look consistent and you want them to look professional. Having a branding around a logo, you know, a way that you describe your business, a way that you know, tell your story or whatever it is, that's going to give you recognition, that consistency, that repetition. And then people know that they found you when they find you online. So, you know, if you think about a small business today, and we're probably going to talk about this later, you're probably going to want to have some Google reviews on the go. Like, how do people know they're reviewing the right company? Well, it could be that your company profile on Google has your logo on it. It's on your website. It's on the social media channels that you choose to be on. And I think people do check you out where you are online. I think often they're going to come to your website or your social media, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like updated every day or anything like that. But then there needs to be something out there that signals to people, we're a professional, active business. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how you can get in touch with us. So I think that kind of encapsulates just what you need as a small business.
Yeah, and I think it can bleed into recruitment as well. You know, when people are looking to come and work for you, you know, if they buy into the brand, they like the look and feel of the company. I know there's values and how you operate and stuff like that. But the first place somebody's going to go is probably your website to check you out as a company. And if your website is not so great, they might think, well, this sort of company, you know, maybe a bit Mickey Mouse or something. I don't know.
And we've just been chatting to the two founders of More Driver Solutions, and one of the things that they were saying that differentiates them is that they have all of their staff wear branded polos. That within their industry, it is, well, you know, also works here. You've got your branded polos on, but that's like a differentiator. You know that you've got a driver from them, and it also puts forward a certain level of professionalism that puts them ahead in their industry as well. So I think sometimes it's really useful to think about branding in that way. How can you use your branding to really put your best foot forward as a business as well?
Yeah, definitely. Well, how did you come up with the branding for Bluebell Cloud Solutions?
It went probably 2-3 weeks.
Right.
We could not come up with a name. We went round the houses, around comms this, comms that, so on and so on and so forth, and we just couldn't come up with a name. And then, funny enough, one night I was driving back into my road, and I looked over at the street side and saw Bluebell, and I thought, that actually sounds really nice. And all the Bluebells were out blooming at the time, and I thought, oh yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll go Bluebell. And I rang my business partner, and he said, oh, it sounds brilliant. And then we come up with a logo with actually a bluebell as the outline of the logo.
The flower.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no, that does not represent what we're trying to do. And then we come up with Bluebell. We looked online to see what Bluebells were available in terms of domains and so on and so forth. And Bluebell Cloud Solutions was available. And I thought, that sounds right. It sounds quite nice. At the time, we didn't think about the domains, because obviously we had Ben at bluebellcloudsolutions.co.uk, which is a hell of a long email address, which we changed since then. But yeah, and then one of the guys just come up with a logo and just said, look, here's the design. I think we should have a cloud with a bell in it, and Bluebell Cloud Solutions. It sort of all reams into one. And I just said, looks good. It was pixelated. It looks good. And it was in like a blue, so there was like a D-shape blue outline, and the logo was actually white, and we ran with that for yonks, I think nearly 2 years, and then eventually we took away the blue and just had it as an outline, and we've just run with that. We've never, I can't remember the last time we even thought or discussed our logo and whether or not we wanted to change it or update it. I think we're quite happy with it. I think people got used to seeing it in and around our areas, and the businesses we deal with as well. I think if they ever see anything, they know who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It is recognition, or I remember who they are.
What about you with Move? I mean, did you have any input into that, or?
I didn't know. No. I've entirely inherited the branding for Move Digital, but I like it, and I think it, it does reflect who we are as a company, and the only thing that we have, which I'm kind of paring back down again, was at one stage I think there were going to be lots of different kind of arms, I suppose, or sections of business, and we were thinking about so Geraint had set things up around different types of Move business. So we had Move Handling, because we did a lot with manual handling companies. We were going to have Move Sounds, which was all the podcasting, and then Move Digital for the kind of digital marketing, website SEO stuff. I think now, I've talked about this before, we're back to being kind of a smaller outfit. So for the time being, for me, we're just taking it back to Move Digital. It reflects the business name that I've been using. It reflects what we do at the moment. And I think, it's quite nice to be kind of a little bit back to basics, and we can just settle into that a bit. And then if we do want to change it again, then, obviously we can revisit that. But I think it's, again, I just want something that's consistent, because there has been a lot of up and down in the business, and Move Digital gives us that. So that's kind of what we've gone back to.
And you don't have any, you say you're happy with it, but you don't think, right, I've come in, I'm running the show here, and I want to put my stamp on it a little bit. Do you think about maybe wanting to change things?
That is a really good question. I hadn't thought about it in that way. I do like the logo, and I like the brand, the way the brand looks, and I like the website, the way that so Geraint had somebody that works specifically on branding who'd not just done the logo, but also some icons and other kind of graphics, especially for the business, which are on our website and we can use on presentations and things like that. And they're really nice. It's a really nice color palette, that kind of thing. So no, I enjoy using it, and it feels like something that represents what we do. So no, I haven't really thought about changing it actually.
No. There's normally say new management come in, or there's a company buyout.
Yeah.
One of the first things they'll do is look at the branding and then update it or put a different steer on it. So no, it's good to know that you're happy with it. I think you've touched on it as well, Laura, around consistency, and I know that's something we struggled with, where we've had 2 or 3 different people involved in marketing, and if you probably looked at all of our LinkedIn posts, for example, they probably looked very different at the beginning to how they look now. But it does evolve naturally as well, I think.
Yeah.
But what I think we're not very good at is making it consistent across all platforms. So the website is a little bit different to social media. Email marketing that we've done probably looks a little bit different as well. So that's something that I want to work on, is being consistent. So whenever you get it, other than having a logo on the corner, you can tell by the colours, the font, the wording, all that sort of stuff, that it's definitely from Bluebell straight away. And I don't think we're very good at that at the moment. I think you probably have similar challenges, don't you, in terms of everything looks maybe a little bit different across all the different...
Yeah, I think so. But again, it's not something that I've thought that it is going to be a major thing in our business that's going to stop us from growing or losing a particular deal. I think when we're in a position where we're at a point where we think, do you know what, there's a bit more time on our hands, maybe this is something we can look at. Maybe we will look at playing around with the logo a little bit, the way that everything's streamed across the businesses. Are the fonts all the same? Is everything, fluid across all the social media platforms? Maybe in the future, but I don't think it's important at the moment. I think I said this in episode 1 where we were talking about contracts and preparation. We didn't have a contract. It was, we'll just get an email, that'll do for the minute, and then we'll roll the contracts out later. I think that branding for me, as the business grows, like you said, it will evolve naturally. You look at your first LinkedIn post to your LinkedIn post today, miles apart. So I don't think it's something I would spend a hell of a lot of time on, is my honest opinion.
And I think until you've maybe you're big enough to maybe have a dedicated marketing resource or marketing team that can push that consistency. And I think you'd need to look at what they call it, branding guidelines, where you do have a very structured, this is the font we use, these are the type of images we use, these are the colours that we use, and then you can have that consistent across everything. And we know roughly what it is, but it can look a little bit different. Do you have those sorts of challenges as well, Laura? I know you've got particular colours, haven't you? And your website's quite striking because of those colours, and they come from the logo, don't they? But then maybe your social media posts aren't quite in line with that.
Yeah, I think we do, but I think for a different reason. So I think at the moment, for example, like our website kind of leads that brand identity, whereas you would know that you'd found us on LinkedIn or other socials. It's the same logo, but there aren't as many touches that would, we don't show it off in the same way that we do on the website, which I think, really is something we should kind of work on. So I think that you found us in terms of this is the brand, these are the people, but there's a lot more that we could do with that. Because let's face it, the worst people to you never take your own advice. So obviously, whilst I wish that our digital marketing was right up there, it's it's something that we need to continuously work on as well.
Okay. In terms of reputation, then, I mean, how does customer feedback play in sort of shaping your business and helping maybe win new business?
What are you talking about?
So
customers feeding back to us directly, or are you talking about Google reviews?
Both.
Internal feedback, we use a smiley face, green, amber, red, on our ticketing system. On the whole, that's a good score. We have Google reviews, but again, I've always found that Britain is a complaining culture. It's not, and even me personally, I have a Google account. The only time I think I use it is if I'm feeding back, if I've had bad service from somewhere. I think probably 2 or 3 times in the last year, I've actually gone on because I've had exceptional service from someone, and I've thought, and it was from an individual, not necessarily a brand or a company, and I thought, I'm going to help that person out. I'm going to put a review for them. So, you know, I don't read too much into Google reviews, even from a supplier point of view. So when we're looking at different suppliers, I wouldn't go into the ins and outs of that supplier, simply based on the fact that, you know, every given situation where somebody is complaining, there is always 2 sides to that story. It is never the side that is published on Google. And yeah, I tend not to waste too much time worrying about them, if I'm being brutally honest. And I don't think if you sit there and say, look at me, I've got 4,000 Google reviews and they're all 5-star, well, that's all very well and good, but you've probably actively gone out there and driven that across your customer base to directly feed back on your Google reviews. Well, why are you doing that? Do you think that that gives you some edge over somebody else when they're pitching against somebody else in the same market? I would suggest not, because I would say out of, you know, let's say we see maybe 60, 70 people in a month, new people that we've never interacted before. I think in the last 6 months, we've had 2 people say, oh, you've got bad Google reviews. We've literally had 2 clients say that. Well, you've got some bad Google reviews. So the first thing I would do is go on and check their Google reviews. And I'll respond saying, so have you. You know that you can't please everybody. And I know that there is 2 sides to every story. It's not just what's written on the Google reviews. So, yeah, I don't pay too much attention to them, if I'm being brutally honest, because there are always 2 sides. And it's the same when you're buying something on Amazon. You know, you'll look and there's 4,500 buyers on there that have given a 4.5 star. Well, if you look at the lowest, it's always the package was damaged, the item was broken, it broke after 2 weeks, it did this. Well, yeah, you might be unlucky, and that might be your experience, but that's not the whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we were talking before starting this recording, and we said about you probably do have to actively seek positive reviews. So if I see a customer and we do like a service review, and, you know, everything's great, and I would then sort of follow up that with an email, you know, thanks for your time today, here's the points we discussed. Yeah. Would you mind leaving us a Google review with a link to make it very easy for them? So I don't think actually any of our 5-star reviews on Google are where somebody has just gone and left a review. That's where I've asked for it off the back of positive feedback in person. So yeah, I think, yeah, it can give a mixed...
Is there any correlation to Google reviews in your SEO work?
I think there
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
So as a small business, I think I would certainly recommend that you do what Ben's doing. So like claim your Google My Business profile, get it set up, get your little reviews link, and exactly what Ben's doing. You know, you don't need to go out of your way to constantly be following up. If you have a product-based business, then you can have a little email sequence. Oh, hey, you know, you bought this a week ago. Would you like to leave us a review or whatever it is? But for service-based businesses, it's really useful to be like, oh, you've given me some great feedback. Would you mind leaving me a Google review? And then that helps you get to the top on the map, get to the top on search, especially if you're a local business. So it's going to help you, because people do go to Google and are like, you know, cloud services in Northampton or whatever it is. Yeah. So it does help there. But I agree with what you're saying. I think people look at Google reviews differently now. If you don't necessarily have 5 stars across the board, nobody's going to be like, right, that's it, I'm never working with you, because you're more likely to just check out the ones that are a bit lower and then take them with a pinch of salt.
Well, that was my point exactly. And the only reason why I mentioned it, because we won quite a large hotel chain. And one of the things that was said in the meeting is, by the way, we don't like your Google reviews. You've got a couple of bad ones on there. I was like, okay. While we're in the meeting, have you seen how many you've got? But I'm not judging you, because, you know, you can't please everybody. And I've stayed in one of their hotels, in actual fact, and I thought it was brilliant. There was nothing wrong at all. And it's certainly the bad ones that I was reading, I didn't experience any of those points at that point in time. So, you know, like I say, this country is a complaining culture, and if you've got something to moan about, you're going to go on whatever platform you possibly can, and you'll think that you're moaning and you're complaining on a particular site, whether that's on Trustpilot, Google, wherever it may be, is going to actually get somewhere. And I don't think it does. On the whole, I don't think it does.
No, I don't think it does. And I think it's kind of changed for small businesses. I definitely think that we went through a period where small businesses felt like they lived or died on their Google reviews. And it felt like a really big deal. Yeah. And we should absolutely talk about that if you want to.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a period where small businesses felt like that. Like if it wasn't a 5-star review, it's a bit like when you buy something on eBay, you know, and they want you to put in 5 stars across the board. And I think people who run small businesses felt like that about Google reviews. But I think we're further down the line with Google reviews now. They've been around for a longer time. They do different things. They feed into different things in search. And actually now to be in a situation where I think a lot of people feel like you do, Ben, you know, if you get a review, get a bad review, yeah, you're going to check it out. You can write a reply. You can, you know, there are things that you can do. You've got a space for you to say, yeah, okay, I'll take that point, but also, you know, potentially this. So I think that's kind of changed a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, going back to me sort of feeling a bit upset about a negative review we had. So, you know, we'd built up 5-star reviews on Google. I think we had maybe 15, something like that. Everybody's generally happy with our service. You know, feedback's always good around the team and the work that we've done, how we've transformed their IT, which is obviously what we're here to do. And I think being a business owner, you invest so much, you know, emotion and time and everything into setting up the business. And you value your customer base, and you know there's nothing more rewarding for me than getting great feedback about individuals within the team and things like that. But we did have a bit of a rocky patch with one of our customers. In fact, they're a joint customer of both businesses, aren't they? So they've got IT services from us, they've got telecoms and internet services from you, and they've had a bit of a bumpy ride. But I feel like we've always, you know, got on a call with them, had a meeting, and then we've offered to do extra things and put things right. And we've had this with other customers before, and generally it's how you react to things. So if something goes wrong, it might not necessarily be a bad thing, it's how you react to it.
Or your fault.
Yeah. So we're always open and honest with our customers. We're very transparent, and if there's something that's not quite right or we've not delivered something we should, we'll then go above and beyond, you know, which we should have done initially to put it right, but maybe we weren't aware of something or something's come out of the woodwork during the project. But this particular customer did have a bumpy onboarding with us. I think they might have had a little bit of a bumpy onboarding with you as well. We bent over backwards to put things right. We offered certain pieces of work for free afterwards to try and smooth things over. And generally, things seem to be okay. And, you know, we were supporting them. They're contacting our service desk regularly. And then literally out of the blue, we just had this great big long War and Peace Google review, which, you know, you get a notification to your Google account saying, you know, you've been left a review, and a sort of 1-star review. And I actually looked at my email, I think it's about 9:30 at night before I went to bed.
Oh,
because it's linked to I don't check my work email, but I was checking my personal email, which is my Google account.
And then they emailed me.
Yeah, and then I literally went straight on, read the review, and it was about how we failed to deliver, like we're really bad, we've not done this, we've not done that, we've not done this, avoid at all costs, I think they put in there in capitals, which they actually spelt wrong. So yeah, my head was just spinning, and I was like, my first reaction was, actually, I'm going to reply to this straight away, because, you know, I was upset and I was quite angry, because we'd also made a lot of recommendations to this company, which we made very clear from the outset that, you know, to improve your IT, you'll need to do this and you'll need to do that. And we're not saying you've got to do this all at once, but it's you know, we'll build a roadmap for you and we'll chip away at these things. And they didn't take on any of our recommendations. And then, you know, they then used the things that were going wrong to fire at us, but we'd already recommended to improve that you need to do X, Y, Z. And there were costs involved with that, which I understand. So we had this really long negative review, and I went to bed, and I had messaged you. I think I screenshotted the review and I sent it around to the other directors in the business. And
I just went to sleep. I just went,
But I literally went to bed angry, and I don't think I slept very well that night. And it's all I thought about the next day. And I called you, didn't I? And said,
we had a chat about it as well.
And it took.
I didn't know that.
I called Laura from what's the best way to respond to this? How will this affect Google? So I sought advice and spoke to people, which probably isn't what I would have done.
Crucially, also, you didn't reply to that review within the first half an hour. Because I would say, like, if there's any golden piece of advice, just don't reply in haste. Just take a beat or a bad night's sleep. Yeah,
exactly. But then what came off the back of that as well is I came in the next morning and it was like, ping, ping, you've got some more reviews. And they were more 1-star reviews, and it seems like he had got his staff to then all leave 1-star reviews as well. So literally in the space of 24 hours, we went from 15 5-star reviews to 15 5-star reviews and 5 1-star reviews. So that overall average score got completely knocked down to like a 3.7 or something. And again, I'm thinking, blimey, other people will look at these reviews. It's going to impact our SEO. We've done really good work on getting these 5-star reviews. But yeah, we just took a bit of time out and actually we looked at all the facts. We sort of put some bullet points together and we responded to it professionally. We owned up to the things that we had failed to deliver on, but we also did highlight, not finger pointing, but saying, look, we understand your frustration. We get that there were some issues with onboarding and it was a little bit bumpy. However, there were some things that you've not followed through with. We also reported all the reviews, and the main one actually got taken down, but then the other ones were still there. But we'd sort of responded to those, highlighting we realised you're also from this company, so anyone looking at it makes it very clear that it's one company leaving multiple reviews. When I actually went out to other people and I think my dad had called me or something and, how's your week been? And I was still fuming about this thing. And he actually read the review and he says, do you know what? From me looking at that, it just seems like sour grapes and someone just trying to,
And this is what I said to you. It's a complaining culture.
But I think it's also like when we spoke, one of the things that I said to you was, I think a lot of people as well, if I'm checking somebody out and I do want to have a look at your Google reviews, actually what I want to do is I want to have a look at your bad reviews. I want to know what happened when it went wrong, because then if that's something that is crucial to me in having your product or service, then I might not be interested in it. But again, you get the right to reply. So if you're online as a business, somebody reviews you badly and you've come back, taken the time to reply, like you say, hold your hands up when there has been a mistake made, said what you're going to do to rectify that in some way. That's what I'm looking for, because I feel like as well, I do think people understand that things are not always going to be perfect. And actually, sometimes when I look at reviews, what I'm looking for is, when it's not perfect, what are you going to do about it? Because actually, if you're still going to be in my corner when it's all gone wrong, well, perfect, then that's great. That seems like the sort of person I want to do business with. But, if you're on there arguing with people, when people do that in Google reviews all the time when they go viral, arguing with people, saying things didn't happen, probably replying in haste, arguing with people, saying things didn't happen, then I'm a bit like, oh, okay, those are alarm bells. It's not having negative reviews in and of itself.
And then I sort of think, having 6 weeks go past since that event, has it affected our reputation in any way, shape or form?
No.
Not at all. Not at all. No. Because highlighted is the great work we've done from people that have left other reviews for other businesses, because you can see that as well, can't you, if they've left other reviews. We also had another one actually come in, which was from somebody I'd never heard of, and it was clear that it was like a bot or just a serial, one of these people that just give negative reviews out. And then we looked at his reviews, and all the reviews he'd left were like really negative for loads of local businesses. So you do get a bit of that sort of stuff going on as well. So I do think people take it a bit lightly, but at the time, I was quite angry and upset.
One of the things, I worked for a construction company, and one of the things that when we had similar situations like that, because obviously you do have to leave a name of some description because it's the name on your Google account. And we actually used to go through our reviews, and one of the things that we did was we used to reply to ones like that saying, oh, I'm terribly sorry, we can't actually see where we've done a project for you. So if you would like to get in touch and let us know which project this is in regards to, then we'll have a chat to you about your issues, because we wanted to make it clear that some people, like you say, or a bot or whatever it is, just rocks up and leaves like random 2-star reviews with very little wording that actually have had nothing to do with your business.
Yeah, and it seems quite hard to get these negative reviews removed as well. You can report them as spam or abusive or whatever, and we've done that.
They don't necessarily get taken down though.
No, that's what I mean.
We
don't,
had one, someone saying that they bought some machines and they didn't work. Well, we don't sell machines, so I don't know, but we've tried to get that removed and we've never been able to get it removed.
Yeah.
But God knows what they bought from us, because we don't sell machines.
Yeah.
We had, although it's never affected our Google reviews, I did wonder if it ever would do. So before the phone number for Move changed, we seemed to have a phone number that must have been very close to a printer, and so people that supply printers and printing contracts and ink and things like that. And we'd get random messages through our messaging service saying, oh, our printer's not working or whatever it is. I always used to reply to the email, because I'm thinking, well, some poor person somewhere is like, can't print anything, just to say, look, you've got the wrong company. But I was thinking the same thing. If you were frustrated one day and your machine, your printer's not doing what you want, and suddenly you're on Google, this company is terrible. Yeah. Like, no, that's not even what we do.
Yeah, I mean, we've also done a lot of stuff around referrals, and I know you do as well. So we actually rang round all of our customer base. Beginning of the year, we did a bit of a referral campaign. So we were offering incentive if you refer us to business, and we do transact them and turn them into a client. But, we said, look, would you be happy to recommend us? Can we use your name? There's multiple businesses on the business park where you are, or in the industrial estate. And the feedback that we got was, yeah, absolutely, I have no problem recommending you. We were going to sort them out a month's free support or an Amazon voucher or whatever. So getting that feedback was really good. But what I find is it's really hard to tell those stories, other than ringing up and saying, oh, we work with this company around the corner from you. John, the owner, has said it would be okay to call you. Would it be okay to come in for a chat? I think the biggest thing is actually portraying that out publicly all the time, and I think that's where things like case studies come in, and we've done a bit of work on case studies, but it's time consuming for the client as well, because you're saying, can we do a bit of a case study on you? And we particularly find with IT that people don't want to let their customers know that their IT was not so great, or it wasn't very secure, or they don't want to be open to a cyber attack because they're revealing what technologies they use and things like that. So that's quite hard for us, but I think you've got some good case studies on your website, haven't you?
Yeah, we do, and I think, again, that's an area that I've been trying to work to update recently as well, because I think sort of in terms of, I think for me, a lot of business that we do at Move, and I think just generally, I think people really want word of mouth at the moment, and exactly what you're saying. And I think it's also, I agree with you, we are often only vocal when we want to say negative things, but I find exactly the same thing as you do, Ben, which is when you say to somebody, actually we're looking for, I think you have to be really explicit about the fact that you're actively seeking new business, because people just don't think about it. And if you say to someone, we've done this for you, we do this for other people, and we can take on more projects, and people are like, oh my God, of course, I've got 3 people, I will tell them immediately. But unless you prompt them to do that, whether it's write a Google review or literally just say to someone, oh, do you like this piece of work? Well, actually, this company did it for us. I can introduce you, like, let's do it kind of thing. I think people just they're just not aware that that's a thing sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I think the case studies, so we do get a lot of inbound inquiries through the website, especially around the podcasting. And I think the case studies help a lot. And I think it can really sort of showcase what you do and how you do it. And I don't think it always has to be for big brands, but I think, people are interested in like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that sounds good. But on the flip side of that, recently, so I've just won a piece of work, and I'm actually doing some work for a friend of mine, and she works for a corporate. And one of the things that she said when she was saying to me, oh, because I kind of need someone to do this video project, and I was saying to her, no, I think you need me. And she's like, oh, no, because you do all this other stuff and, you know, you work with all these cool companies and we're just a corporate. And I was like, no. This is what we do. Like, I think you misunderstood. I absolutely want to talk to you about that project. Like, let's have a conversation. So sometimes case studies can be great, but I think sometimes you feel like you're shouting about something that you think is super cool and is super cool, but other people can't see themselves in that case study. So they're like, oh, well, they're not for me. Yeah. So it's like all these things, is delicate balance, isn't it?
I think it depends on your sort of marketing strategy as well, because you're very outbound driven in your business. 100%. You have people on phones, you know, ringing up companies, trying to book in, you know, sales appointments for your sales team. Whereas I think our businesses are more about inbound. So it is about how you present yourself, you know, on your website and your social media. And you do some of that, don't you? But it's not your primary focus.
Well, it's through you guys, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time recently redoing the website because, you know, we had a basic website and it didn't really showcase us in terms of our services and what we do. So we've spent a lot of time and money on developing that. And actually, since we've done that, we work with a local SEO company as well, and actually they redid the website for us. These leads have started trickling in. It's like a tap's just been turned on, and we're starting to get more inquiries because we're getting some traction with it now. But for us, a website is this like a living and breathing thing that needs to constantly evolve and be updated and new content. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, putting case studies on there is important to us. Testimonials, Google reviews linked in there, you know, showcasing obviously not 1-star reviews, but yeah, and you know, blog articles and things like that, so people can see that you're constantly giving away information, and that helps with your Google rankings. And we found that a lot of businesses now are searching, particularly in our sector, around cybersecurity is a very hot topic, and AI as well. So we've done a lot of work on blog articles around protecting your business and cybersecurity. And of course, people are searching, you know, cybersecurity in, you know, the local towns and things like that, and then we come up top on Google. So that's been really good. But I think before, our previous website, it didn't look so nice, and there was no real call to actions on it as well. So people were coming onto our website, having a little poke around and going off. Now people land on our website and they will actually click through to other pages and then make an inquiry.
Interact.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe like you said. And that comes down to branding again, doesn't it? And reputation sort of rolled into one.
And again, like, you're picking up on topics that are current right now. That doesn't necessarily, like, obviously you can cover those areas for your clients, existing and new, but it doesn't mean that you have to. You can still offer your traditional services, but you're making it look like you're a business that is forward thinking, that is thinking about the future, that's thinking about trends in your industry. Like, I don't think there's any downside to talking about that. So, you know, for example, podcasting this year, like, YouTube is going to be really big as a platform for podcasting. Like, there's every reason, I haven't done it yet, but there's every reason that I should be talking about that on the website. You know, what can you do? Like, this is an opportunity, not because I think someone's going to rock up and be like, I want a podcast and I need it on YouTube, but because I feel like that opens a conversation to someone who's like, I hadn't really thought about platforms, but I definitely wanted to talk about podcasting, and you clearly know what's going on in the industry at the moment. So again, showcasing.
Yeah, it's about being the industry expert, isn't it? And having that knowledge. Okay, so I think that's all useful information, and we've all got different steers on things. But yeah, to sort of wrap up, I think it'd be good to ask a couple of sort of quick questions.
Where did you get these questions?
ChatGPT.
Right,
it's my go-to for everything now.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
Do you actually do any work anymore, or does this just do it for you?
It does everything for me.
Yeah, all right, I thought so. Go on then.
Okay. So, describe your brand's personality using 3 emojis.
What?
Okay, we won't do that.
Okay, hang on.
I'm going to be here a while.
No.
It's going to be a rocket, a fist pump, and a thumbs up.
It literally was.
Something like that, yeah.
It was going to be a rocket, fist pump, and a thumbs up.
Nice.
And a strong arm.
Yours will be a microphone.
Yeah, I was going to say, we need like a microphone, the little recording camera. I quite like the fist bump as well. I'd probably take that one forward. Yeah, definitely. Or maybe a musical note.
These are stupid questions. They are stupid.
Right, okay, we'll scrap that
3
off.
emojis, like, seriously. I could put a cloud, Although if you typed in bluebell, will it actually bring up a flower? It might.
You probably get a red rose or something.
And then solutions, I suppose it would just bring up a pen, like a fountain pen, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Well, go on then. Well, how about yours? I mean, this is I feel like
It'd be
you
a
Just a
picture of
PC,
picture of
a laptop.
a laptop. Maybe a isn't there like a virus? You know, where somebody's like,
Oh,
yeah.
or like a
The COVID symbol.
yeah,
Yeah.
little-
Oh, there's the one with like the crosses for the eyes.
But
Yeah.
maybe that's not very good.
Or the skull, you know, the skull with the crossbones.
Virus of death.
Yeah, and then a little rocket. I think I like the little rocket.
Yeah.
I use that a lot
Rocket's
at the
good.
moment.
Rocket's good.
You're mocking this, but I think this is a perfectly good question,
is a good
which
question.
we've answered very well, which should stay in.
Yeah. Well, we asked Emily and Nikki this earlier. If your brand had a theme song, what would it be and why?
I feel like, and also inspired by them as well, I feel like ours should be like Eye of the Tiger. It's just like, it's a classic anyway, you know, and you've got to have some kind of rock ballad in there. But then I think, you know, that you can use that to psych yourself up in any situation. So something like that, I think would be cool.
God,
Do these mics pick up sound?
Do you want to play yours?
Yeah,
Ooh, go on then.
I want to play mine.
Ben, do you have one while Ben's trying
it's
to
going
cue
to be
his up?
Tina Turner,
Oh.
Simply the Best, isn't it?
Oh,
You know?
my
Absolute
God.
classic. I think we're going to have to
That's
alter the
ridiculous.
question. I think we're going to have to alter the question for future podcast episodes because it's going to have to be what power ballad
What
best
power
described
ballad?
because we've all chosen power ballads up till now. And then,
Are you ready?
You're going to play the Rocky theme tune or
No.
something like that.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
yeah.
Have you guessed it?
No.
Is it the A-Team?
Where's those?
Yeah.
And that's when the van comes shooting around on the corner. And we should switch to that, actually.
With the Bluebell
we
branding
should
on
switch
it.
to that. We just have that. And then the Bluebell van put it in the... You need fast internet or your PC's fixed.
Was that a British gas advert or something, wasn't it? You know, where
Oh, there was definitely,
Something
yeah.
like
Someone
wasn't
used
it?
it. Someone used it. They obviously paid a hell of a lot of money to use it.
I think it'd be copyrighted. Wouldn't it?
Oh, we
Have we
might
got-
have to blank that out, actually.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, no, it was under 15 seconds.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, next one.
Can you think of a time when a branding mishap turned into a positive for your company?
Oh, not really, no.
No.
Oh, although branding mishap, which is actually one that's quite close to home, I do the thumbnails for all the episodes of the podcast when we put it up on YouTube. And it wasn't until I made what was the tagline on our cover image? Was it like small business life revealed or something like
Reveled.
yeah?
Reveled.
It wasn't until I did the
Did you
second
point that out?
thumbnail.
No, I didn't even
No,
notice it.
I noticed it because I was adding it to something else or I was making a second thumbnail and I was
Small
thinking
business Revelled.
this has been up for like over a week and no one has noticed.
Yeah, I don't think... No, I've never had...
No.
No, because I'm quite lucky. I've never had to actually design the logo or do anything with the logo. It's always been
But
there.
if you put anything out on social media that you thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or
Oh, I've done that plenty of
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
On YouTube, though, not on anything else.
right, okay. Is that your own personal use?
Yeah, so we won't get into that.
Okay.
So, final question from ChatGPT today is: if your brand were an animal, what would it be and why? So we've got a flower, even though we're not showing the flower, but
Yeah, but a brand isn't a flower. I don't want it to be a flower.
Bluebell.
It's got to be an animal.
it's a bell blue, bluebell,
Any animal.
any animal.
I really don't know.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
I suppose for Move Digital, at this point, possibly some kind of phoenix, I think. I think
Yeah.
we have,
Rising from the ashes.
yeah, I think it's been, it's been tough times. So I'd probably say something like that.
I was going to say.
I've got it.
Go on.
A duck.
Okay.
Because on the surface, we seem calm and steady. And underneath, we're peddling like...
Paddling.
It's supposed to be a swan, isn't it? A swan.
Either or. They both do exactly the same. On the surface, they look like they're gliding. Underneath, they're going at 100 mile an hour.
I was going to say you'd be a shark.
That's the music again.
That's uncomplimentary, that. Shark.
You big shark. I don't know what we would be. I have no idea. Quite like eagles and things like that. Bird of prey.
Yeah. / soaring.
Bird of prey. Yeah. You're the most unaggressive man I know on the planet, and you're going on as though you're a bird of prey.
Have we contemplated the idea that the branding and reputation section might be this podcast? Slightly tanking the branding and reputation of all of our businesses.
But yeah, I think that's all the questions for today.
Brilliant.
This is actually the final question now. We've got one more to throw in.
The final of the final of the
final of the final. If you could collaborate with any brand in the world, which one would it be, and what kind of project would you want to work on together?
These are questions that you need to go away and think about and be put in a room for an hour and then come out with an answer. What brand would I like to go away into?
Do you have one, can you think of one for your business?
Yeah, I mean, we collaborate with lots of big, so Microsoft, for example, Acronis for cybersecurity and disaster recovery. I think being able to collaborate at a higher level with Microsoft, to be invited to their World Summit or something and be a speaker on stage at something like that, I'd really like to do, because you're in the top 5% of Microsoft partners. Then we're quite a way off that at the moment, but that would be cool to be invited to something like that, where you're doing talks at sort of big vendor seminars. Considering we built our business off the back of Microsoft cloud products, I think if we could do that, that would be fantastic. So watch this space. Maybe in 5 years' time. Yeah.
I think for me, it would be, I can't kind of think of a particular person, but we've done a project recently with YouTube, and through that we've worked with some of the YouTube creators from the YPP, from the partner program, and they're just amazing people, people who create content on YouTube full time, their creativity and the way that they look at things, and the way they come up with their ideas and sort of try new things. I think some kind of project, to continue to work with creators, not necessarily on that platform, but on any kind of platform. I think there could be a really fantastic podcasting project in something like that, which would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this one.
I know. Matt Armstrong.
No. As much as I would like to chat to him.
But you
brand. Okay. Are you talking brand or company?
Well, either or, really,
yeah,
isn't it?
Same. You sighing, honestly. I feel like Ben and I gang up on you on this.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many businesses I'd like to engage with that have done particularly well, and I'd love to spend an hour with those individuals to just get a little bit of a delve into the back end of what's going on. One of them would be, believe it or not, and some people love him, some people hate him, would be Eddie Hearn and Matcha in Boxing. I'd love to spend an hour with them and look at what they've done, how they've achieved what they've achieved in the last 20 years. That would be one for me. I don't know whether I'd work on a particular project, but I'd love to do their telco, obviously. But
but then saying that, actually, you seemed quite proud of when you signed up. I won't mention the name of the client, but they make boxing gloves.
Yes.
And they've made boxing gloves for current world champions and things like that.
Yeah.
And knowing that you really like boxing, I remember talking to you about once you'd signed that client up, and you were like a Cheshire cat,
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
It was, and they have an incredible story, and we might be fortunate enough to get them on. They are an international company, and they literally have 3 or 4 staff in the UK. I'd like to spend time with them. Anything, I think as long as it has something to do with my interests and that could potentially be linked to our business or help our business grow, then I'd like to. There's many people and companies I'd probably like to spend time with, but it's not one I can really give a pinpoint today. Eddie Hearn, if you're watching, get me over.
So thank you for joining us again on Living the Small Business Life. If you run a small business and you'd like to join us as a guest on the podcast, then leave a comment below or do DM us and we'll get back to you, because we are looking for small businesses to feature on the podcast.